Welcome, friends. My name is Judy Sigley-Amit, and on behalf of the Inclusion Ministry Network, we are thrilled to bring this 14th annual Rest and Rejuv to you. For years now, Rest and Rejuv has been a day when we have cheered our moms and caregivers of people with special needs on. We're well aware that in this viral time, this message may go way beyond our typical message. Whoever you are, wherever you're at today, if you're needing an uplifting word, you're in the right place. Though we can't do the pampering and unlimited coffee and chocolate too, in this experience, well, we can bring you the most important thing. We will be renewing our hearts through some rejuvenating messages. We are in a crazy season. The entire world is dealing with the challenges of challenging circumstances with COVID-19. For individuals impacted by disability, well, challenging circumstances are not new to you. You are survivors. You know about being isolated, changing plans, pivoting in a moment's time. You know decision-making fatigue. In this season now, challenges are taken to a whole new level for all of us. We have a programming that is sure to bring you some encouragement. New format this year, gals. Let's set the stage here. If you haven't already, grab your cup of coffee or tea. Yes, pull out your notepad and pen if you're one to take notes like me. And you can even sneak a piece of chocolate today. It's okay. There are two parts of this program, both brought to you in the comfort of your own home. Yep, gals, you can stay in your jammies if you'd like. Part one, that's what we're into right now, is about an hour. You can stop and start if you need. And then there are 3 rejuvenating messages in this part one, a keynote and 2 breakout. Message number 1 is by Jolene Philo. She's our keynote. Her message is the mess that stress builds and what to do about it. Jolene shares very practical strategies on how to cope mentally, physically, and spiritually for such a time as this. Following her message are 2 shorter breakout sessions. Tanya Fraser is going to be talking about learning to silence the negative talk. All moms have a running dialogue of self-criticism going through their minds. For a mom with kids with special needs, well, the stakes are higher and the voices are often louder. Great message. And then the second breakout is with special needs caregiver extraordinaire. That's my name, for Mandy Johnson. It's called Click, Click, Zoom. Learn some creative strategies for staying connected at this very disconnecting time. And then we'll close part one with a song that's done by a worship team at Hope. Part 2 of this 14th annual Rest and Rejuv is actually going to be a face-to-face via Zoom connection on Saturday. That's November 7th at 10 o'clock in the morning. During this session, we'd love to hear some takeaways, but we want to just discuss actually the content from these messages you're hearing now. Plus there's door prizes and gifts for all. If you haven't gotten your Zoom invite, please contact me at Judy Sigley, just J Sigley, JSIEGLE at fargohope.org. While these days are unsettling and changing and tiring, they're not new and unknown to God. I love the words of Jesus in Matthew 11:28. It says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." We can go to him. We are not going this way alone. Please bow with me in prayer. Lord Jesus, thank you for this opportunity to gather for a time of rejuvenation. God, you know just where we are at. You know what's going on in each of our own corner of the world. Open up our hearts and minds to hear a word from you today. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay, gals, rejuvenating message number 1. Jolene Philo is a parent and daughter of loved ones with special needs and disabilities. She is a former educator who created inclusive classrooms for all learners for 25 years. She's the author of several books about caregiving, special needs parenting, and childhood PTSD, including Sharing Love Abundantly with Special Needs Families, the 5 love languages for parents raising children with disabilities. She has an award-winning blog, differentdream.com. Check it out. It provides encouragement and resources for caregiving families. Jolene and her husband live in central Iowa. She's going to join us for the Zoom on Saturday. Jolene with the mess that stress builds and, well, what to do about it. Welcome, Jolene.
Hi, I am delighted to be here with you, even virtually, at the 14th Annual Rest and Rejuvenation Retreat for special needs parents and families affected by disability. I think this is probably, even though it's the 14th, probably the first that's been virtual, and I'm really pleased that you were able to make that work and that all of you have joined here today. And I hope that means that there's some people all from across the country, not just from Fargo, North Dakota and the surrounding area. I'm here to talk to you today about the mess that stress can build inside us as caregivers and what we can do about it. Now, this topic started a number of years ago when I was speaking at some special needs conferences and parents kept talking about the stress they were under. I kept hearing that from them, and every time I would bring it up, it would resonate with them, but it was almost like they were afraid to admit that their caregiving duties caused them stress because for some reason they felt that maybe meant that people would think they didn't love their children. And yet they do. They're caring for them every day and they love them and sacrifice for them, as we all do for all our children, every single day. But finally I decided, I think somebody needs to address this, and I want to see if there's enough interest out there to write a book about it. And so I put up on my website, differentdream.com, I put up a short survey for caregivers, and that was in January of 2018 or 2019, I think. And in a month, 1,500 people had filled out that survey from all around the world. People had answered it, of course, in the United States, but there were many people from Canada, the United Kingdom, Ireland, Kenya, South Africa, Italy, all over the world, New Zealand. People got on and answered that survey. And what I found out from that survey was that there is almost a universal sense and acknowledgement of the stress that caregiving parents live with. And I kind of parsed that out, and I've been working with it, and I've interviewed some of the parents that filled out that survey. Not all 1,500 of them, I just couldn't do that. In fact, I had to stop the survey after a month because there's only me to look at the survey results. And if it got any bigger, that was going to be about impossible. But I did, like I said, interview some of the parents who did the study, and I took a look at the statistics, and I want to go over some of the things that I found out from those statistics, and then also talk about what some of the parents that I interviewed said helped them deal with the stress that they were living with. And then at the end, we're going to look at a few universal principles that we can use as caregivers to lower the stress we live with, because I think you'll see as we go through these statistics that we really need to find a way to handle the stress we're under. So 98% of the people who were surveyed said that caregiving duties cause extra stress in their lives. And the number one stressor at 77% of the parents said was sleep deprivation. Now, they could mark as many of the stressors as were listed as they wanted, but 77% was by far the greatest one with sleep deprivation. Next, just to show you, was paperwork at 44%. And I understand that. I understand the lack of sleep, and I understand the paperwork hassles, because our first child was born with a significant medical special need that required years and years of surgeries. And we did a lot of paperwork with hospitals and insurance. And for the first 4 years of our son's life, he never slept through the night. And so we were pretty exhausted. You know how most parents say that, oh, you got to really pay attention to those first few years of a child's life because they go by so fast. It was not like that with our first child. We didn't experience that until our second child. With our first child, it felt like 4 years or 10 years. And when I look back, it still feels that way because we were so tired. So the physical impacts of caregiving, back into the survey, 87% of the people who filled that out said caregiving had had a negative impact on their physical health. And some of the things they said that they were dealing with were exhaustion, makes a lot of sense when you don't get enough sleep, weight gain, a lot of pain, headaches, migraines, back pain, neck pain, and that increased if the parents had to do a lot of lifting. Hair loss. Isn't that interesting? A lot of them reported autoimmune system failure of one sort or another. Many reported high blood pressure and strokes. The vast majority of the people who filled out the survey said they had not visited with a doctor about their symptoms because their caregiving duties didn't allow them to. And that's really troubling to me, and I imagine it's troubling to you, because as caregivers of children especially, we realize that we may be caring for them depending on what their disability or special need is. We may be caring for them long after they become adults. And we want to be healthy and able to care for them for as long as possible. We want to be their caregivers. But if we're already dealing with high blood pressure and strokes, and many of these were younger people in their 30s and 40s, if we have autoimmune disorders and weight gain and significant pain, that is going to be a problem as we get older when those things become more common. We have to do as much as we can to deal with those physical symptoms and stay as healthy as possible now while we're caring for our children, so we can be with them as long as possible. And so we have time also to prepare for when we're gone and someone else takes over their care, whether it's their siblings or we're looking at a residential placement. We want to make sure that we're around to help them make that transition and prepare them and their caregivers for what's coming next. So, as I mentioned, I interviewed a number of parents, and I asked them deeper questions related to what was in the survey. And one parent I talked to had some really insightful and effective techniques that she had implemented. Her daughter was born with a rare medical chromosomal disorder. There are only like 70 children in the United States, or in the world maybe, who have been diagnosed with this. And that led to a lot of significant care needs because there's intellectual disability and some medical things. And 4 years after this little girl's birth, her mother had a physical breakdown because she was trying to work. She was trying to do the best she could for her daughter's care. She was trying to advocate as much as she could. And eventually, it just overcame her. And she also had 2 or 3 other older children. She started experiencing a lot of gastrointestinal issues and developed a number of food allergies. And she visited with her family doctor. She went to an allergist. She went to her gynecologist. She went to a gastrointestinal doctor. And none of them were able to figure out what was going on, and all of the treatments they prescribed didn't help. So finally, someone told her about a doctor who was also a naturalist. And she was not interested in going to this doctor at all. She does not like to go out of her comfort zone and deal with physicians who maybe, are a little farther out on the edge of what's common practice. But she was out of options, and there was hardly anything could eat. She was basically starting to starve. So she finally went to the naturalist, who asked her a question no one else had asked her. Are you dealing with a lot of stress? And after hearing this mother's story about her caregiving responsibilities for her daughter, the doctor said, I think your body is shutting down because of stress. And you're going to have to work hard to regain physical and mental balance in your life. To do that, here are some things that this mother did. I already mentioned she went to the doctor. She went to a number of doctors, and she kept going to them, and she waited until it was a life or death situation for her. I don't recommend that for any of you. After she got this information from the naturalist doctor, she took 6 months off everything extra. She quit her job. She quit volunteering for anything. She didn't sign up for any extra clubs or committees, and she just concentrated on taking care of herself physically and spiritually. One thing she did was made sure she wasn't overdoing housework. Her former method of operation was to clean the house from top to bottom and get everything clean and shiny. And what she decided she had to do was, number one, enlist her children to help with the cleaning. And number two, maybe do just 30 minutes of cleaning at a time here and there so she didn't exhaust herself. She also started reading about healthy ways of eating. And she did a lot of research on that. But she chose to implement only 3 of them. And they were 3 that she felt she could implement pretty easily, that weren't going to add a lot of stress to her life. And one of them was, I believe, eating more whole foods. Another was, just getting rid of prepackaged and over-processed foods. And I can't remember off the top of my head what the third one was. But she just came up with 3 common sense ways to improve her diet. And then she also asked people for help. And she said this was really, really hard. She asked her mother and her mother-in-law for help, and they were ready to help. They wanted to help. She also started asking friends at church for help. And one of the things she asked for a while was if they could just bring in some meals. And she told them what their dietary restrictions were and asked them to follow that. And they did. So she asked for help so that she was able to care for herself. And as her physical and mental and spiritual balance returned, she was able to ask for less help, though she still does ask for more than she used to. And finally, and I found this really interesting, she decided it was important for her physical health and her mental health and her spiritual health to find simple ways to help others. So as she started feeling better, she began to do things like double the amount of food she was making so she could have an extra meal to take to someone who maybe had a new baby or had just had a child receive a diagnosis. Or as she got to feeling better and she needed to take her kids to this practice, she picked up the neighbor kids too. Simple things, but she said it was really important for her to get out of herself a little and to think about the situations and needs of others rather than constantly thinking about her own. So that's what one parent did. And I think, as you can see, the hard part of this would be asking for help and then just letting go of everything other than what was essential in her home and concentrating on herself. That's so hard for us to do. For some reason, we feel like that's selfish, but it isn't if it helps us regain our health so that we can do a better job of caring for others in the future. Now, the mental impacts of caregiving was something this study also looked into, and 90% of the caregivers who filled it out said that caregiving had had a negative impact on their mental health. And some of the things that they mentioned as symptoms were depression and sadness, uncontrollable crying, anxiety, panic attacks, excessive worry, PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and exhaustion. Now, isn't it interesting that exhaustion was mentioned as a mental symptom, a mental health symptom, and a physical health symptom? The two areas are so closely linked. 92 of the people who said that that caregiving had a negative impact on their mental health. So that would have been about, at least 1,300 of these people. Only 92 of that 1,300 said they had talked to a therapist or found a medication to help through a therapist. Again, that's really disturbing because parents who are dealing with the symptoms that we just read are going to have a much harder time caring for their children with disabilities and special needs as they get older. But here's what one parent did. And I really like this story because, again, it shows how closely mental and physical symptoms are linked. This family had adopted a son. They had, I think, 4 older children who were their biological children. Then they had adopted a little girl from China and decided they wanted to adopt another child so that she would have a closer age mate. So they adopted a little boy who, once they brought him home, and they knew he had some physical needs they were going to need to address, but they also discovered he had nonverbal autism, and he can be aggressive and self-injurious. Eventually, the mother landed in the ER with a racing heart, chest heaviness, a sensation of skipping beats, and lightheadedness. But the EKG they did, and later a heart monitor that she took home and wore for quite a while, they all came back good. They couldn't find anything wrong with her heart. The symptoms faded away, but a year later they reemerged, and at that point she realized that these symptoms were typical of a panic or anxiety attack. And she realized that she was dealing with a mental health issue rather than a physical health issue. So here's what she did. Obviously, she'd gone to the doctor, again, not by her choice, but she ended up there. And she tried some medications, but she did not like the way they made her feel. They made her feel tired, and she couldn't focus as well, and they made her feel slow. And those were things that she couldn't have happening while she was caring for her child, who could sometimes be self-injurious or aggressive. She needed to be right on top of things at all times. So after that, she decided to start researching the connection between the gut and the mind. Again, isn't this interesting? It's so similar to the physical symptoms the other mother was dealing with. So she researched that, and she decided also to focus on nutrition. And she found a diet that worked for her, and she had also gained quite a bit of weight when she was at home and stress eating. And this helped her recover her weight, and it also helped her regain her energy. And this diet, I think, was it the Galveston diet? I'm not sure, and I'm not trying to recommend a certain diet here. But it really focused on, again, eating those whole foods, thinking about how different foods made you feel, both mentally and physically, and then deciding what you could eat, how often you could eat it, how much you could eat. She also kept a gratitude journal. She just decided to start writing things down that she was grateful for every day, because it helped her, again, think about her life in a different way. Another thing that she did was started a support group, and I think it was mainly an online support group, and they had a Facebook page where they could gather and share prayer requests and hold each other accountable, and she found that very helpful. Another thing she decided was that she needed to take naps when she got run down, and she started taking naps. Again, something physical to deal with a mental health issue. So those are a few ideas of what you could do. And again, she does not want anyone to think that, well, I don't think anyone else should be taking medication for a mental health condition. There are good reasons and there are good medications that may be able to help you. And you need to talk with a therapist or a doctor about them. Let's move on, though, now to the spiritual impact of caregiving. Just 30% of the people who filled this out said that they experience spiritual doubts and questions on a regular basis because of their caregiving duties. And I found that a little bit disturbing because I did not make this a faith-based study. And I know that a lot of people who aren't anchored in faith, and especially in faith in Christ like we are, filled it out. But what really troubled me is that I realized that on my caregiving journey, I would not have made it through if I hadn't had faith. And the hope of the gospel, I think, is what helps so many parents. And we need to be able to share the gospel with them. And my goodness, Jesus recognized this need, and the first people he sought out in any of his missionary journeys were those who were dealing with disabilities and special needs. So here's what one parent did to address her spiritual needs. She had one child with a serious physical disability and autism who requires a lot of care. Her second child had heart issues at birth and was in the NICU. The mom became very anxious as time went on about not being able to function and care for her kids as they needed. And she says her darkest times were when she was most in prayer and in the Word. She felt closest to God when she was pleading and clinging to Him, when she couldn't do it, when she had to rely on Him. But then when things improved, she was not so much in the Word and in prayer. And to change that, she became more consistent about Bible study and prayer. She highlighted prayers for the anxious in the Bible, and those came from James MacDonald. She asked for prayer in a mom support group on Facebook. She asked her church friends for practical help, and she began to talk more about how she was feeling. Now, the steps that these three women used to help regain their physical, mental, and spiritual health are not a set of steps I expect you to go through. They are not directions for you to follow. They just illustrate how to build upon some basic fundamentals to reduce your stress while caregiving, whatever your form of stress is. So here are 5 little principles that might help you as you try to address the stress in your life. The first one is to shift your perspective. Think about not just you and what's happening right now in the here and now, and that I need to get this done, but think about the long term. What do I need to do to make sure my child's long-term situation and my long-term caregiving situation are the best that they can be? And what can I do in the short term to start working toward the long term? Second, start small. Don't try to do everything at once. Choose one thing or 3 things like the one mother did, 3 ways to improve your diet, and work on those. But don't try and choose 10, and don't try and overhaul your whole diet in 5 minutes. Choose one person that you trust, who you could confide in. Choose one person to ask for help and go from there. And then, again, choosing that one thing goes along with starting small. Just starting small is more like, where can I make maybe the biggest bang for my buck right now? And then what's one thing I can do to accomplish that? Next, ask for help. And finally, be persistent. You're going to have to keep working on this. You can't try and do it for 5 days and decide, it's not working. Remember the first woman I talked about worked on hers for 6 months. She was going to persist for 6 months to see if she saw any improvement. I think the same can be said for the other two women. It wasn't a one and done kind of thing. They had to keep working on it. They had to develop new habits one at a time, not all of them at once. And that takes a long-term commitment so that you can get one habit developed, make one good change in your life, make that become ingrained and instinctual within you so that you don't have to think about it anymore. You just do it. And when that happens, then it's time to add the next thing. And that takes a bit of persistence. And I think along with asking for help, which I kind of skimmed over very quickly, it takes a measure of humility. We have to be willing to be transparent. We have to tell people that we can't do it alone. And we have to accept what they have to offer with a grateful heart. Now, I hope those things have helped you. I hope they are part of the relaxing and rejuvenating that you're experiencing today, and that maybe you can leave today with one idea from what I just talked about to implement and try out. I would also encourage you to visit my website, differentdream.com, where I write a lot about what you can do as caregiving parents to relieve the stress in your life. And I encourage you there. There's a contact button, and if you click on that, you can send me an email if you have any questions, if you would like to visit with me via Zoom or a phone call or just by email. I would love to do that. If I was here with you today in person, I would be doing that throughout the day, and I would love to be available for you that way. So again, differentdream.com, go to the contact page, and you can contact me via email, and we can set up a time to talk. I hope the rest of your day is absolutely wonderful and that you go home feeling more relaxed and ready for the challenges life is going to bring, and also knowing that you are dearly loved by the people at New Hope Lutheran and by your Savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you for being with me today.
Thanks, Jolene. We are now into the breakout sessions, gals. Keep your seats. You don't need to move to another room. Stay right where you're at. Breakout rejuvenating message number 2. Tanya Frazier is a parent, educator, and coach. She's trained and coached locally, nationally, and internationally over the last 15 years. Gals, silence the negative talk. You can't afford negative talk because that negative self-talk sucks our energy. It drains our strength. Let's listen to Tanya.
Hi there, my name is Tanya Frazier, and it is a delight and honor to be able to chat with you today. I hope that you're having a wonderful conference experience, that you are receiving amazing tools that are going to help support you as parents, and also receiving opportunities to refuel. My intention for our time together today is to talk candidly about parenting, particularly parenting extraordinary kids. And I love that my dog is wanting to contribute to our presentation. As I was about to gather myself to present today, I, was about to go into the bathroom and to put makeup on and to do my hair because it's, late at night, and to change out of the, kind of run around the house dress that I've been in all day that's probably covered in dog hair. And then I just paused and I remembered who my audience was. Right? We're moms. This is real life, right? How often is it that we give ourselves permission to be honest that this is okay. This is an okay version of mom, right? And in this time of unique conference experiences, and unique gathering experiences like this particular one is, a snoring dog or a moaning dog on the side is not the end of the planet, because we're parents, right? We're used to the unexpected. We're used to curveballs. And the other thing that we're used to is is having a game face. And that's kind of like kind of where I'd like to spend a chunk of our time together today talking about. So, a little bit about me, just so that you know who's yapping at you. Um, as I said, I'm Tanya. I'm from Fargo. I'm married to a guy named Lenny, and we have a 13-year-old daughter. And I'm really enjoying this day of parenting a teenager. As those of you who have parented teenagers know, it is every day is a new adventure, right? And is that not true of every kid, right? But sometimes I think teenagers get a bad rap. Um, a little bit about maybe my work experience, just so you know, like why am I yapping with you? For about the last 20 years, I have been in the realm of education. I am a licensed teacher, so I've spent some time in the classroom. Segued out of teaching in a kind of institutional fashion quite early in my career, and segued unintentionally really into parent education. And so I did some in-home parent education working with a program called Parents as Teachers, where we would do in-home developmentally appropriate education for parents, and also developmental screenings to support parents of any socioeconomic background to learn more about being their kid's best teacher. And I then, this isn't necessarily direct chronology, but I spent a chunk of years working at Cass County Social Services in child protection, doing parent coaching for parents whose kids had been removed and placed into foster care. And I was in charge of supervising visitation, um, doing parent coaching for the parents who were working to get their kids back. Inherently, I would also do parent coaching of foster parents who were struggling with some challenging situations just because of the trauma the kiddos have experienced. Not to mention if the kiddos had extra needs from the get-go. And yeah, being a part of that world, and it was such a rich part of my professional experience. I very much cherished that time. And then for 10 years, I had my own training and consulting company that I had the awesome opportunity to travel the world and speak and coach, doing parent coaching, doing like teacher in services and teacher training and coaching in schools, doing parent advocacy and life coaching as well. And did a lot of work with the Nurtured Her approach, if that's something that you're familiar with, on the national training staff for that program for a while, and really fell in love on a much deeper level with working with parents, but particularly found my niche in the way that I parent coach, which is different and unique, as it should be. Every coach should have their own style. And one of the things that I worked on a lot when I worked with parents, lots of parents who came to me had kiddos who had behavioral challenges, which I very much emphatically put in quotes. And also many of the kiddos that I worked with their parents were kiddos who had been identified with some sort of special or unique need, um, a unique ability, a different realm of living than the world may perceive as typical. And in the years of working with those audiences, I learned as much as I taught. That's for absolutely sure. And one of the things that I picked up on over and over again, um, is something that I can relate to very, very much as a mom as well. And that is, as I referred to earlier, this need for a game face, right? That whole fake it till you make it philosophy. And if there's one phrase that makes me cringe more than any other, it is fake it till you make it. Because you know what? Why can't we be real about the fact that we're not making it yet? Why do we have to pretend that we are in order to save face, in order to impress so and so, in order to not embarrass ourselves or be ashamed of the reality that we are human? um, and I have ended up doing quite a bit of presenting on that particular theme of unabashed authenticity as a parent. Even and especially when you are a parent of a kiddo with extraordinary needs. Because in my experience in working with parents in that realm, one of the things that I found true over and over again is that they didn't, they often felt that they didn't fit, that in a social group, for example, they would be in an environment where people are talking about parenting, but parenting neurotypical kids. And there would be a bit of a mask that would be put on to participate in that social experience, to be a part of that conversation, and at the same time to not feel like we were talking apples and apples, or that they couldn't truly be a part of the encounter, particularly when the reality is that that particular parent was struggling far more than the peers that they were talking with, but didn't feel like it was the time or place to be able to be honest about that struggle, because then it's focusing on the problem, or it's all about so and so and their kiddo with special needs, and the shackling that would do to parents, and the shame that would create, would help to actually reinforce that mask, right? That game face. Also heard lots of stories of people in extended family functions, and would do so many coaching sessions preparing and supporting parents in preparing themselves mentally for being around their own family, because they felt that there was an air of judgment around the way that they would parent, or that they would need to parent, or the way that their child would behave, or the the traits that their child may exhibit that would draw attention from family members in ways that were less than desirable, and the raw vulnerability that it would come from those conversations, and people talking about not being able to feel supported and having to truly have that game face on with family. Additionally, and one place that I really, really was passionate was when parents would be in settings of school meetings. And some of us are blessed with school teams that are really supportive and engaging, and really embracing around our kiddo for who they are. And then there are other teams where the IEP seems like it is all focused on who their kid isn't. And they may set aside a couple of minutes to talk about the positives, but then it's right back to, but they can't, and they don't, and they need to, um, And the stories that parents would tell me, or in times when I would be along as an advocate in those meetings, um, watching parents need to play as if they were superhuman, um, in order to feel like they could be in that room, in order to feel like they had a voice that was worth listening to. Um, and in each of those scenarios, and many, many others, uh, there's a common theme of being enclosed inside of a version of yourself. Let me rephrase that. Of being two different versions of yourself, right? A version that is who you put on because you feel you need to in so many settings, and a version that is real. And I, in coaching, still love to, and do a lot of self-worth work myself on the journey of speaking to and working with that real version. All right. We have protective mechanisms that we use, and that's where that mask comes from. That's where that fake it till you make it stuff happens. There's a reason for it, right? There's a purpose. But behind that is that real person who really needs to be validated, who really needs to be given permission to be real. And that is, if you remember nothing of the things that we talk about in our time together today, that's the message I want you to take home most. Is I give you overt permission to be you, and to be flawed, and to be imperfect, and to be broken, and still to be wonderfully made and wonderfully chosen as the parent of this child for you. And the more that we can give ourselves the grace to not only be okay with or tolerate our imperfections, but to truly embrace them and find peace with them, the more we are able to parent in a way that is more empowering to our kids, right? Because energetically, they can sense when we're playing games. They know who we are, right? The other component that comes into play here is the way that we talk to ourselves. All right. So there's the head game of the way that we think of ourselves and the judgment that we place, but then there's also the things that we say, right? And I know that there are a lot of you listening who fall into the same boat as I and many, 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 many mothers and fathers do, in that internal dialogue of, I didn't do this and I didn't do that, and see, there I go again, and oh, I screwed that up, and gosh, my kid's gonna be need therapy for decades because I did that, and there's just this running narrative that runs through our head. And it is so toxic, and it is so dangerous, and it is so, my sweet doggy, it is so human. And so the other piece that I hope that you can take from our conversation today is this. When that voice comes, and she or he is going to, it is part of the human experience, is hearing that voice of judgment and critique and criticism. Kind of like we're instructed to do if you've ever done any meditation practice. They say, let the thoughts float in and let them float out with no judgment. I'm going to give you that same challenge. When you hear those voices of criticism, A, start noticing that they're there, right? Because you can't really do much with them if you don't notice they exist. And then B, start challenging them, right? So I'll give you one of a bajillion examples today. This video was due a long time ago, and I had a lot of guilt and a lot of judgment around. Oh, I still don't have that done. Oh, I feel so bad. Oh, they're waiting. And I needed to challenge that inner chatter to reframe to say, if I could have done it sooner, I would have done it sooner. And there's a reason why it's not done yet. And I needed to give myself permission to have it be what it was. Because the truth is, I can choose to be miserable, or I can choose to be focused on what might be in this video, right? I could spend the entire time beating myself up over the deadline that I missed, or I could sit in the present with you and focus on the gifts that I've been given to be able to share with you. Okay. Another example. I have a Norwex business. I'm a Norwex consultant, and I have some prizes from a party that happened months ago. And it has been 2020, folks. Can I just say that? It's been 2020. And I have not gotten those darn gifts out. And never mind that in the midst of the time from when the party was until today, when I actually made the dang mailers to go out, I have navigated in an entire conference at my new job, where I'm an education coordinator for an international nonprofit. We had to create an entire new conference because of COVID. So I did that, working like 70-hour weeks for a month, and had a kid this week who had her wisdom teeth taken out, and all of us were sick through the month of September, with different viruses, none of which were COVID. And there are all of these, and they're not excuses. I want you to hear this. There are all of these amazing things that I did as a mom, that I did as a professional, that I did as a human, that also happened within the time that I was supposed to get these darn mailers out, right? And I carried it's so silly, but I carried so much shame about not sending out those mailers. And I needed repetitively over this multi-month time frame to take a breath, forgive myself, hear the inner chatter, trust that I was going to be able to get it done. I set 7 different plans to get it done by a certain deadline. None of them happened. Because welcome to real life. And for those of you, because I know many of you are parenting kiddos with unique needs, the number of things you're called to do on a daily basis is extraordinary. Extraordinary. And so the things that fall off your list, the things that don't get done, the laundry that doesn't get folded, the task that didn't get done, the friend that didn't get called. There are so many things that we can spend our time shaming and ruminating on, or we can give ourselves grace and forgiveness and keep moving on and allow for the next moment. Because when we stay stuck in shame, when we stay stuck in the past of the things that we haven't done, we miss the opportunities at hand. We miss the opportunities in the next moment to be a blessing to someone, to have a special connection time with your kiddo or your partner, to be able to connect with your maker, to be able to take care of yourself, right? So, I've gone over the amount of time I plan to talk with you, and for that I say you could have stopped it if you wanted to, because it's just a video. I wish you health and happiness. I wish. Oh, and my dog's contributing. I wish you the bravery to notice and start to take off the mask. And I wish you the courage and the self-compassion to challenge the voices of criticism to you, from you. Because there's one person we can count on to take care of us at the end of the day on this planet, and it's us. So here's to new skills. Here's to a new moment of dedication. And here's to you, an amazing parent. All my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Rejuvenating message number 3. Gals, do you ever feel frustrated or overwhelmed with technology? I know I do these days. Click Zoom. We're going to learn some tips and tricks to have more fun in our next video get together. Let's hear from Mandy Johnson.
Hello everyone, my name's Mandy Johnson. I'm a board member with the Inclusion Ministry Network, and I am so glad that you've decided to join us for this year's Rest and Rejuv. I'm actually joining you from my home right now, so I apologize if my dog starts to bark or if you can hear the neighbor upstairs playing video games. But that's kind of the fun of meeting online. Nowadays, we have so many options to connect with people than we ever have before. And I'd like to show you 5 fun things you can do on your next online video chat. Hello everyone, I'm so glad you've decided to join us. I just wanted to thank you for attending this breakout session. I hope you learned something. I hope there's something new for you. Even us experienced users can always find something new to do. I'm going to be referring to Zoom. Zoom is an online video chat platform. You can sign up for it for free. It provides 40 minutes of free fun time. Plenty of time to catch up with friends and family, and it allows you to have 100 users. That's a lot of users. So the first thing I recommend doing is having a virtual hangout. You want to set up a topic for discussion, like what has been one fun thing that has happened to you this week? Or what 3 things would you want to have while stranded on a deserted island, and why? And if you're with your family, what are some of your favorite memories of Grandma? My tips for a virtual hangout is be a great moderator and know when to move on to the next person or topic. Oh, Sally, that was such a great memory of Grandma. Thank you for sharing. Bobby, what did you have to share about Grandma? And of course, always encourage everyone to participate. Wine is optional. The next thing you can do in a group video chat is play charades. This one is a riot. We have so much fun with this. You can think of several different themes like animals, musical instruments, sports, maybe something from your morning routine like brushing your teeth or showering. And what you want to do is take turns acting out things according to that theme, allowing people to guess. If someone guesses correctly, they get a point, and the person with the most points wins at the end. You want to switch themes once everyone has had a turn. Some tips for the playing charades and online is, of course, write down several ideas ahead of time. So if someone is stumped, you can send them a suggestion in the Zoom chat. This is the Zoom window that you would see if you were the host. You might see your picture up there in the middle, but unfortunately my camera on my computer doesn't work. So that's why you see a camera with a little line through it, so just don't be worried about that. But if you look towards the bottom here, this is the chat feature. It opens up this window here, the group chat, but you always want to make sure that if you don't want to send to everyone in the chat, you can change it down here where it says everyone. You just click on that little arrow next to it, and it will allow you to chat with one person. The next fun thing we love to do at our Day Hab program online is called What's in the Box. This is a hoot. You want to encourage participants to hide something in a box or bag. It could be an everyday item like a fork, a book, or something unique, maybe grandmother's brooch, or a souvenir you picked up on your last trip. Could be something silly, funny, maybe a stress ball shaped like a poop emoji. You want to take turns asking yes or no questions about what's inside. So, does it smell sweet? Yes. Is it round? Yes. Bumpy? Yes. Soft? Oh yeah. Can you eat it? Definitely. Do you use it every day? Well, I'd like to, but probably not a good idea. And can you share it with a friend? Yes. Because of course the item is a donut. The person who guesses first gets a point, and whoever has the most points at the end wins. So, some tips for what's in the box. Decide if you're going to give clues. If you give clues, it's a little easier to do. Oftentimes, I'll shake the bag or the box so you can hear what it is, kind of gives you an idea. One of the ladies who is vision impaired, she guessed almost immediately that it was checkers. She was close. It was actually the game Connect 4, so she almost had it. Also, you can allow open-ended questions if people are getting stumped. So an open-ended question would be, what shape is it? What color is it? What is it used for? Those types of things. Oh yes, and this is just a bonus tip, but Zoom is great for sing-alongs.
All sing together, so I want to do a real easy, familiar song. So let's do Jesus Loves Me, okay? Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay.
Yes.
Jesus loves me, that's right, I know. For the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so.
Very nice. That was great, you guys. Beautiful.
Isn't that a Bible
Karen?
story?
Okay, we got Lila here yet?
No, get down.
No.
Nope.
Okay, Mandy, you want to tell a story? No.
Karen.
So that was the Friendship Club from Maranatha Church in Glendon, and they're just a hoot. We had a lot of fun going online when we couldn't meet together. Our next thing we can do is choose your own adventure stories. This is one of my favorite things to do every week with our Day Hab participants. You can buy the books on Amazon. There are hundreds to choose from. You can buy the whole enchilada, I believe they call it, for like $150. Or you can buy them in sets of 4. There's a myriad of adventures. It's written for 9 to 12, ages 9 to 12, but it's fun for all ages, really. I super enjoy it. I mean, we have been under the sea, we've been out to space, we've been to the Mayans, we've been racing cars across Africa. It is just so much fun. You want to find someone who enjoys being dramatic and have them read the story? Which is what I like to do. And at certain points in the story, the reader must decide what they're going to do next. So what we do is we kind of take an opinion poll and we go with the majority, and it's super fun. Some tips for choose your own adventure books is that you want to make sure you mark where you made your last decision. I usually use Uno cards because at some point the story will end and you just want to go back and try something different, and it's really easy. It's a lot more easy to do that if you have it marked. Also, you want to ask reading comprehension questions as you go. This is super important because if you think about it, when you're reading, you see the words on the page. So you can comprehend both ways. You hear it and you see it. But if people are only listening to you read, it's really a good idea to say, hey, what is the name of the dad in this story? Is it Charles or is it Henry? Because when you're not seeing the words on the page, it gets a little confusing as to who is who and what's really going on in the story. And then it's always a good idea to ask everyone to mute while the story is being read, because there's background noise, there's people talking, there's TVs running, things like that, and it's just so much easier. They can unmute when it's their turn to give their opinion, or they can give thumbs up or thumbs down, that type of thing. Alright, this is what you would see in a Zoom meeting. Here's our Friendship Club again from Maranatha. Amazing group. If you want to mute just a single person, you would click on them, and you can see you can mute them individually. Or you have down here the mute all or unmute all buttons. So if you're the story reader, you can mute everyone, and then you can unmute them as you see fit. Also, here's the invite button. This will open a dialog box for you to invite people through email. So if you want to do that, that's a great way to do that. Here we go. Here's a promo that I made actually for our Dayhab program when you're first starting to do Choose Your Own Adventure stories.
Flash of light. The laser cannon explodes. You are... No, that's the ending. I didn't want to do that one. I'm going to go back and try something different. Oh, hi. I'm sorry. I didn't see you come in. My name's Mandy. I'm practicing for our dramatic reading of the story Journey Under the Sea. It's a choose your own adventure book where you get to decide what happens next in the story. So I hope you'll join me next Tuesday. Grab your favorite blankets and your favorite cup of coffee, and then help me decide what goes on in our story. I'm going to get back to reading now if you don't mind. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye. Journey Under the Sea. I'd like to try to change your mind. Do you think there's no fun or adventure in reading? Then guess what? You're wrong. Send you the link. Read the story. Oh. Journey Under the Sea. No. Please join me on Tuesday, January 3rd. It's not saved, June 3rd. And why does my eyebrow look like it's missing? It looks like my eyebrow's missing. Journey Under the Sea, a choose your own adventure book. Bye-bye. Or do you think that... I need to stay put. Okay, read, stay put.
Alright, I had a lot of fun doing that. The next thing that you can do is play word games. This would be like if you were on a road trip in the car and you would start playing word games. There's a categories game. That one's a lot of fun. You think of a theme, like types of cars, things you can make with avocados, dog breeds, and then each person must name something that fits with that theme. And you could even make it a little more challenging by saying you have to go like ABC, like in alphabetical order. So you could start off with dog breeds. The first person would say Aussie, and the next person would say Bichon, and the next person would say Corgi, and etc., etc. A lot of fun to play categories game. Then there's the movies game. So one person starts by thinking of a movie, so let's go with Meet Joe Black. Then the next person must name an actor or actress in that movie. So in Meet Joe Black, there's Brad Pitt. And then the next person names a movie that Brad Pitt would be in. So Ocean's 11. And then George Clooney. And George Clooney was in Batman and Robin. And so on and so forth. Next one's a little confusing. It's called the Infinite Word Game. One player starts with a letter and the other players take turns adding one letter. Each player imagines a word that he'd like to build, but most likely the next person is already planning a completely different word. You are not trying to read the other person's mind. You just come up with a word that has the letters that you've been given. So the first player will start with an A and thinking of the word age. The next player will think of the word, oh, I know an A word, annoy. So I'm going to say A-N. The next person goes, I know an A-N word, it's angel, so I'm going to say A-N-G. The next person says, oh, I know an A-N-G word, it's angry, so I'm going to add an R, etc., etc. The word should be as long as possible, and the player who can't think of a new letter is out, and if possible, the other players can go on building the infinite word. Now, we also played, too, that if you spelled a word, you were out. So if the word started out as a B, And then the next person said, oh, I know a B word, you know, like say they were thinking of Bob and something. The other guy goes, I know another word. I was thinking of the word battery, B-A. And the next person adds a T. Well, that spells bat, right? So that would spell word. But you guys play however you want. Some tips for these is if someone's getting stumped, just give them a chance to like look some up ideas. We don't want the game to end too soon, right? So if they want to take their turn to look up something, they sure can. And of course, anyone is eliminated when they cannot continue the pattern. Now I said only 5 fun things, but I just want to give you some bonus online games using screen share. Now screen share is a little bit more for the advanced Zoom user, but once you get used to it, it is super fun. Zoom also allows you to share to your iPad and iPhone, so if you have that option, that's fabulous. Otherwise, you can just share your screen by signing in again as a different account or as a different a Zoom user, and then you can have them share their screen. It's really kind of neat. You can go old school playing bingo. Bingo is one of the things we do in Dayhab as well, and it's so much fun. And like I said, you can go old school and use an actual bingo cage to call out the numbers, but I find that using screen share and any number of the online bingo generators is so much easier. I prefer appzaza.com. It shows up like here on the left. If you click that green button on the top that says choose a bingo ball, it chooses a ball for you and everyone can see it. They can see the numbers that were called. It's really a super fun thing. So I'll be like 074, 074. Pause, and then, you know, choose the next one. It's a lot of fun. Your friends can download and print off their own bingo cards. They can use one that they have lying around the house, or they can even make their own. So you can have bingo cards that way. Then I just like to be kind of silly and goofy, and I like to do random prize generators. So if they get a bingo, they win a virtual prize. It makes for a lot of fun when you could win anything from a virtual flat screen TV to a rusty old nail. And my favorite website for this is called randomlist.com. I love this site. Here is, let's see. Thank you. Another way that we do is online screen share. We do Mad Libs. You can go to madlibs.com and download the app to your mobile device or tablet. You can use the free offerings, or you can purchase a new book for a couple of bucks. I think it's $1.99 for like 25 more stories or something like that. You can see on the left there, it just has you pick a new word. And so what we do is we take turns. So, hey, Bob, can you give us an adverb? That kind of thing. And then Sally would give the next one, etc. If you're stumped, the app actually gives you hints. So you can actually pull that little guy in the middle there over to the left, and it'll tell you what a verb is, and then it'll give you several hints. And if you pull it over to the right, it'll give you a list of hints. So it's a really neat app. I really like it. And sometimes it helps to think of words that are related to the title of the story. So if you're doing like ninjas and pirates, you could say a noun is a ship or an eye patch or a parrot. And it really does make a lot of fun for the story. Okay, here is just me doing some screen share with myself. Alrighty guys, so this is me sharing my screen. We're going to do bingo here. This is my phone that you're seeing here. So we would go to the browser on my phone and we would open up appzaza.com, and there we would have bingo numbers. And as you can see, you can, I'm going to get rid of that ad up on top there, sorry about that. You can choose a bingo ball right there. And as you can see, then it's G55, G55. It's a lot of fun to call numbers. And it shows the last 5 numbers that you called. It shows all the numbers that have been chosen. And everyone can see this then on their screen. So it really helps. And once someone actually gets a bingo, then we would go to a different page in the web browser there, to this randomthings.com. And I could say, would you like to pick what's behind door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3? And they would pick number 3, and they'd win fake flowers. So it's actually kind of a lot of fun. I enjoy doing that one. Also, what do we have here?
Hello everyone, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned something new or got some great ideas. My dog is shaking the camera. Hi. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's Rest and Rejuve. I hope you were uplifted. I hope you got some encouragement for the rest of your days. And I hope to see you all again very soon. Have a wonderful night. Bye.
Thank you, Mandy. I hope you've been encouraged today. I want to take a moment and thank our sponsors who supported us, Bell Bank, Thrivent, and the Vogel Law Firm. A special thanks to the Inclusion Ministry Network. This is a group of area churches that work together to support our families affected by disability. The women that are on this team include Courtney Peterson, Judy Cunningham, Karen Swanson, Cindy Buchanan, Julie Slotton, Karen Erlacher, and Mandy Johnson, and myself. And we are from Bethel Evangelical Free Church, Salem E-Free, Maranatha Free Lutheran, and Hope Lutheran Church. Gals, it doesn't end here. Connect with one of these faith communities if you're not already connected. Many of them have services online or in face-to-face. They have programming for your kids, some of the churches. Check it out. Connect with one of us team members. Connect with each other. Don't go this way alone. God has created us for relationships. We need each other. Finally, a reminder, join us for our face-to-face Zoom connection on Saturday. That's November 7th at 10 o'clock. Again, my email address, if you haven't gotten that Zoom invite, please reach out to me at jsigle, that's JSIEGLE, at fargohope.org. We're going to have a kind of a recap discussion of the content from today, plus door prizes for all. Thanks for tuning in. We are going to close with a blessing. The song is The Blessing that is done by Andrea Messelt and one of the worship teams at Hope Lutheran Church. God bless you.
Presence go before you and behind you and beside
a blessed day. Thanks for worshiping with us.